Hello, we're the Cryptid Code. We're your hosts, Harmon,
Kenzie.
JP.
and we like to talk about aliens, cryptids, and generally anything spooky.
And we cuss a lot.
Indeed. So, Kenzie, I think it's your turn to present this week's cryptid.
Yay. Okay, so to start, it's like not your average cryptid. They call it a folk. There we go. Folk cryptid. I can speak, I promise. Folk cryptids have to
I'm
be
not like other cryptids.
well, folk cryptids aren't like, I don't know how to explain it. It starts with just like stories passed around, and they don't make a big deal about specific things they see. Because it's one of those things where like, oh, well, saw something you're not supposed to see. Let's just ignore it. And maybe nothing will happen from it. Like, does that make sense at all?
Yeah.
It's like a creature that exists in oral folklore, but it's not like scientifically documented.
It's a game of
Yes.
telephone.
Pretty much. But it's like a big enough game of telephone where like once you start talking about it or once you start doing research on it, you find a lot of surprising pieces of information in regards to it. So let us begin.
Okay, I'm excited.
Have either of you heard of
Let's-
not deer?
Not outside of you telling me about it.
Yeah. I was so interested in this stuff. I promise. It was good. So not deer, like I said, is a folk cryptid, and it's commonly found along Appalachia. I don't know who the fuck says it. What way?
You are from West Virginia, and
And
you don't
how
know
do you
how to
say
say Appalachia.
Appalachia or
If
Appalachia?
you call it, remember
Appalachia.
it like this. If you call it Appalachia, I'll throw an apple at you.
Appalachia.
It's Appalachia. Oh my God.
Listen,
Dude,
be
you
real.
should be
I live.
glad that we don't have a big channel because you would get so much hate
What?
for saying it.
No,
Appalachia.
no,
Oh yeah,
Appalachia.
100%.
Do you realize how many people in my family say Appalachia? Like Appalachia.
Wrong.
Excuse me. Anyways, so the not deer aren't specifically
Maybe
one.
the real cryptid is pronunciation.
Oh my
It could
God.
be.
Listen,
It could be.
listen here. I am continuing. Ahem.
Let's go Appalachia.
Not deer aren't specifically just one creature, similar to like most of the cryptids we've seen, how it's like maybe one or a few. This is supposedly like many creatures. I happen to have been seeing a lot of crazy videos on TikTok of all places showing off these really weird animals. And I've been reading a lot of stories as well of people seeing deer where it suddenly stood on its hind legs. I saw a comment or post about how a family member had shot one and that the creature had actually army crawled because it wasn't dead. But when you imagine, like, I used to hunt when I was really little.
That's
So,
sad.
well, yeah, but I used to hunt when I was really little.
You
I
just
have
imagine
shot deer, and I have shot them
this
like,
deer just having a platoon moment.
well,
Watching
like
his friends get
Just crawling at you.
literally no. So, I've shot deer, I've killed them. I mean, if you shoot them right, they fall on the ground, their legs run a little bit, and then that's it. But apparently the person that commented this, their uncle, family member, whoever it was, had shot it like, pretty well. Like it took off running, and usually after it runs, it'll like fall because it's dying and then it'll die. Never have I once seen any kind of deer actually using its legs in a fashion that can be considered crawling. So when I saw this comment, I was like, whoa, hold on, what the fuck? Like, okay, I'm kind of interested. You've piqued my interest. I want to know more. Um, so
wait. So
yes.
what exactly is a not deer though?
Okay.
Like what? Give me like the elevator pitch
Here.
of a not deer.
Hold on. I'm gonna get into it. I promise. So they resemble deer, like your average deer, to a degree. But the term not deer really comes from the idea that these things are not deer at all. And it's something about them is usually very off. And of course, if they stand on two hind legs, you should probably like go the other direction. Like personally, I think that's kind of fucking weird. Of course, it is normal to see deer get onto their hind legs, especially if they're trying to reach parts of trees, like for apples and stuff, but they don't do it for like a specifically long period of time. And it's understood in the not deer community thing that they don't just, get on their hind legs to reach something. They like physically walk on their hind legs, like straight at you. So
Wait,
what's more?
the
I
way you
really
said
wish.
in the not deer community makes it sound like they all came together and agreed on this. Like all the not deer.
That must be
have a
how
big
the fuck
meeting.
they named this
Like, this is how it
thing.
works.
I want to see the congregation where they're like, let's call it not deer. That's like the best name ever.
I have no, like, yeah, that's the one thing I could not figure out why they came up with not deer. Like, there are things that you can call this thing to like represent it that isn't like the fucking most obvious term.
That is some pure Appalachian shit where they're just like, just name it what it is. It doesn't need a
The
fancy
fuck
name.
buck.
Fuck buck.
So like when I say community, I guess I mean from what I have read and researched, there are a lot of people who kind of share similar experiences in regards to what they have seen not deer do, which I found was pretty interesting. So it's like just this collective of people who for like the longest time just never fucking talked about it. But if you go anywhere research wise, and I mean to tell you the amount of people who have made videos on this stuff, they're like, yeah, I have family who live in Appalachia. I have family friends. I have this, I have that. It's like this really long telephone pole of people who all like know what it is, but they just don't talk about it. And then when they do talk about it, it's like things that your nightmares are made out of. So who knows? Anyways, so each sighting is completely different. Since there's so many different appearances all across the states, it's kind of like hard to peg down exactly what these things look like. But from the basic consensus of stuff that I found, they look like predators because your average deer is prey, so their eyes are on the sides of their head. These creatures, their eyes are most certainly at the front of their face, like a predator, and they usually have a deer body
Like
and
Furbies.
Furbies.
what's
Their
that?
eyes point
Furbies,
forward.
yeah.
Furbies,
That's
like
what
the
I said.
little
I said,
robotic
yeah, Furbies.
creature.
Yeah. Those creepy little things. Yeah.
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 I mean, not really. That thing looks like a
Ugh.
weird cat bird hybrid and a robotic shell of
Furbies
terror.
are creepy.
I just
Yeah.
meant like eyes forward.
Yeah.
What do you think Furbies hunted
Well, they talk about how
people?
some people talked about how not deer have claws too, which honestly, like if I ever saw a deer with claws, I'd probably shit myself because that sounds actually pretty fucking terrifying. The one thing that makes them super different too is their lack of care in regards to humans. Most wild deer are easily startled, and if they see people, they run the other way, unless you happen to be in areas where people feed the deer. But not deer don't run or flee, but apparently have been known to make strange noises and move in very creepy joint knocking ways towards people if they stay near it for too long. And their eyes have been considered oddly intelligent, as if they're more aware than the normal deer. So like the terminology deer in headlights will not apply to these creatures. Like they apparently are actually really smart. But like basically the understanding is that if you see a deer, but something is wrong with it, like physically, whether it be their joints or eyes or ears, and the way they walk is extremely off-putting, it's a not deer. Most who have seen them explain that it's a terrifying encounter because there's just something seriously wrong with the creature. It's usually not proportioned correctly in some fashion. And I've also read that they can be explained as almost a deer, which is interesting in and of itself. And I actually saw a video of one where people claimed that it was a not deer. And like personally looking at it, like again, I've seen deer, I've hunted in my lifetime. I have seen deer because they're really popular in West Virginia. And the one that they were showing and claiming it was a not deer, I will say it did look pretty funky. Its neck was like that of like a fucking alpaca, like really, really big, really, really thick. It had forward facing eyes, and it didn't even look as if it was breathing, but it was just like standing there staring down the people who were recording it. And I was sitting there and I'm like, it's cool that everybody likes to record things nowadays, but I'm sorry that if I get weird vibes from an animal, like I'm walking away. Like I'm not gonna stick around and find out like if there is something wrong with it or not. Like that's not my cup of tea. Not deer are also usually seen in packs of other deer. So you can usually spot the difference between them, however, because they act, look, and move so much differently in comparison to normal deer. And I find that really interesting because it's like the equivalent of like hiding in a pack. Like I feel like there's other animals who have done that where they like implement themselves into a pack of animals that are familiar to them and pretend to be one of them, and it gives them the opportunity to like travel to for protection and for meals. Like it's a guaranteed like pack mindset thing. Does it make sense?
Wait, meals is in like they eat
Kind
with
of, I'm
them or
trying.
like they eat them?
They eat with them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I found that
Hmm.
interesting because like deer in themselves, like obviously they are in a pack because, you know, of generation after generation and just the way that evolution works. But these deer do it in a very, very different way. Like again, with this like intelligence of a predator, not of prey. So that's why it's like so strange. Um, and another thing I found interesting too was that there is this idea that if you happen across a not deer at any point, you're supposed to pretend as if you didn't see it. The rumor around this idea is that by approaching it or actively noticing it, they will attack you. According to a YouTube video I saw by Chilluminati, they spoke as if the not deer like could kill you. Like if it notices it, if it notices you, noticing it, you are fucked. Like that is the idea. So if you make a point of acting as if it doesn't exist, then it won't bother you, which I find weird in of itself. But I thought that was kind of like a fucking creepy thing because at this point,
So like all those
I
people
was
that
about to
recorded it are dead.
they're not though.
moments later.
Yeah, they're
Oh,
not though. So yeah, that like I just thought it was like an interesting little tidbit because again, like there's no literal actual documentation. It's just people saying, "Oh, that's for sure a not deer, not deer, not deer," and like most of the time they say these things, and you're sitting there and you're like, "Is it really?" Like it's probably a deer that's sick. I don't know. I just found this whole thing interesting. I ended up like some kind of freaking rabbit hole of not deer information. One day I was doing it for hours. I don't know. I like it. I'm gonna say that I'm biased.
oh, okay. So
What?
it does seem to be interesting that this doesn't seem to be a natural creature. Like, if it is concerned about concealing its existence, this kind of hints that it's not a normal, natural creature, but like something with a almost kind of supernatural intelligence. Which would you all like to hear my theory? If not
Sure.
deals, if not deers are real, what they might be?
Yeah.
Skinwalkers.
Okay, hold on. I'm pausing you right
Although
now.
skinwalkers typically want you to notice.
Pause, pause, pause. Listen,
What?
wait.
I am positive.
I am pausing you because you're going to be excited with what I have to say next. And by next, I mean it's like 3 things away.
Okay.
But yeah, listen. So, on the idea that there could be another cryptid involved, there's actually one that you can also find online called the Deer Man, who is also talked about as looking very strange, large, and has lots more reported sightings in comparison to not deer. And they say it is very common for it to stand on its hind legs and run at people. Of course, this could be 2 completely different creatures, but I thought it was very interesting that this is more of a legitimate cryptid, whereas the not deer are your folk cryptid. And
Man, I looked up deer man and I am not pleased with what I found.
what have you found?
I just found a
Jack?
sexy man in a deer costume.
Oh no. Yeah.
Emphasis on man.
Oh man.
So
The
let me
indeed.
I'm gonna come to a point now where I start explaining kind of like some theories ish. One theory is that these deer are ones that have been exposed to chronic wasting disease. This next part is actually taken from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention website. So chronic wasting disease is a disease that affects deer and other animals that is commonly found in North America. Quote, it may take over a year before an infected animal develops symptoms, which can include drastic weight loss, which is what they considered wasting, stumbling, listlessness, and other neurological symptoms. CWD can affect animals of all ages, and some infected animals may die without ever actually developing the disease. CWD is fatal to animals, and there are no treatments or vaccines, end quote. However, there's a lack of impact of chronic wasting disease around the states where not deer are commonly seen, Based on a map featured by a biologist I discovered in my research, West Virginia is the only state that has like serious issues with the wasting disease, whereas a lot of these other states with not deer sightings most definitely do not, at least nothing that has been reported. So if they aren't diseased deer, what could they possibly be? And I'd also like to insert a quick excerpt from an anonymous source on Reddit, because I'm a big Reddit fan, so I can't help myself, but I thought this was interesting. They posted their own experience with something they believed was a not deer. Quote, "The ones I've seen were very large deer, and there was nothing about them that was wasting or them losing mass. It visibly had joints in the normal places, but when it walked, its legs bent between those joints. It also had forward-facing predator eyes. Another instance, it had stared me and my cousin down and slowly turned its head nearly upside down from the joint right behind its head. I have researched the chronic wasting disease and have seen deer with it in real life and up close. That is not what I saw the times I've seen this thing. All I know is that it is not a deer," end quote. So on to more theories.
So
Wait, what?
it sounded like I halfway expect him to say the deer looked at me and suddenly pulled out a Glock.
It was a very dramatic commenter. I know, but I was so deep into this like not deer research that when I saw that, I was like, holy shit. Like, because I was already kind of spooked. So Harmon, you're gonna like these next parts. Some theories
All right.
regarding not deer state Wendigo as one possibility to explain them. Wendigo are of indigenous origins and are believed to be human spirit that has been punished or cursed due to something evil. So now they walk as a Wendigo and have a very strong craving for human flesh. In different Native American legends, the Wendigo is said to look human, but over time it turns into a giant from their constant eating, but always look thin due to their never-ending appetite. Other stories say Wendigos are made of ice. And in modern times, a lot of depictions of Wendigo have them wearing deer skulls or antlers on their heads. So that could be, some kind of link. People think they're seeing a deer, but in actuality, they're not. However, according to Offbeat Folklore Wiki, this is merely a made up idea from fantasy writers. So fantasy writers basically really got into the idea that Wendigo look like this, when in actuality they've never been represented as that. So that's definitely kind of faulty on the Wendigo side.
I actually know a little something about that. The first depiction of a Wendigo having antlers is from a TV movie from the 90s called Wendigo. And the director admitted he never researched the story ahead of time, and he just thought the antlers looked cool.
Okay, so I'm going to say that is so insulting to make a movie about a creature that has some serious history, especially in Native American legends, and then you don't research it. Bro.
Welcome to America in the 90s.
That happens a lot, especially in the 90s.
That's so freaking frustrating.
That is interesting that it feels like the not deer is not so much as uncrypted as much as a reinterpretation of an idea that's already been there, like the deer man or skinwalkers. It really lines up with skinwalkers because the whole point of a skinwalker is you shapeshift, but you don't move right.
Here we go. Ready? Next theory. Skinwalkers are...
Did I skip again?
You're okay. They're literally right here. Skinwalkers are another type of creature most often pointed to when talking about not deer. So skinwalkers in the Navajo culture are thought to be witches who possess the ability to turn into animals. So the skinwalkers aren't animals. They are people who turn into animals. The animals most associated with skinwalkers,
like furries.
Yeah. Most associated with skinwalkers usually include the trickster animals like foxes and stuff, but also can include any that are also representative of death omens. However, they can also possess living animals or people and use their bodies. Similarly to the Wendigo, certain ranks, quote, of skinwalker can be achieved by doing something very bad. And apparently skinwalkers have different levels of them. So both skinwalkers and Wendigo
have transformations.
Well, it's they have ranks. They have levels of power or possession abilities or things that they are capable of doing. As the longer they do
Double
what they're
XP
doing.
Skinwalker weekend.
What's your Skinwalker rank?
I know. I feel like I'm playing an MMO, talking about it like that. But yeah. And both skinwalkers and Wendigo are very popular in today's media, from TV shows to video games. However, I will say that I felt that the explanations of the two don't necessarily match up to the explanations in the firsthand accounts of the not deer that I have discovered. I do agree with you, Harmon, that skinwalkers are definitely like a little closer, like way closer than Wendigo, obviously, but I feel it still doesn't necessarily give like an amazing explanation as to what the fuck a not deer could be. But I definitely think it's on the supernatural side.
Especially the MO, because it sounds like the not deer wants to avoid being discovered to the point where like it will murk you if you notice it. But skinwalkers, they want fear. They want you to know they're there so they can feed off your negative emotions. And you can't do that if you're dead.
Exactly. I don't know. I just found them really interesting because there's so many aspects of like the not deer and the stuff that I have found, and how like it's almost like you take a little bit of like Wendigo stuff, you take a little bit of skinwalker stuff, you take a little bit of just like your average deer and other little supernatural cryptidy kind of vibes, and you shove it all in one thing and then you send it out into the world. And like that's kind of what I feel like not deer are in that like mindset. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's like a game of telephone.
Yeah.
All right. So do you have any other theories as to what these not deers, maybe whatever they are? We just know it's not deers, right?
Not deer. Yeah. Deer is plural. Deer is also singular. So you don't have to put an S on the end of it.
Mooses.
But no, it's just deer. Could be one deer or many deer. There's not deers.
Anyway.
Gooses.
Geese. Damn it. Anyways, I do not have any more theories. Those are all the popular ones, whether it be disease or some relation to skinwalkers and wendigos, or just, people obviously just making shit up. But yeah, I mean, with everything that I accumulated, I think we can kind of agree that like not deer, like at least from what I have reported on, have to be like some kind of weird supernatural thing.
Or they're not real.
Okay, listen.
That's what I like to hear.
Listen.
Or they're bears.
Or they're just skinny bears. Harmon gets it. Harmon understands.
I fucking hate you
They're
guys.
just thin
They have
bears.
claws, don't they?
They have claws. They can stand on their back legs. Bears can do that. Bears have forward-facing eyes. They're just skinny bears.
Why do they look like deer?
I don't know. Because they're thin.
And why do their joints do weird things?
When you lose a lot of weight like that,
there are bears that learn to break dance.
If you put a piece of cardboard out, they'll just start
You're pop locking.
So you guys don't see like any credence with like, just the Appalachia folk stuff, the stories. You think it's all bullshit?
Sorry. In actual seriousness, other than the fact that it's a skinny bear, I can see how there would be like a creature that a predatory creature that evolves to look like a prey to disguise themselves. I totally believe that. And maybe they're a little smarter. And, if you stare a predator in the eyes, a lot of times they get aggressive. So that kind of coincides with it. Like if you don't pay attention to it, it won't attack you. I could believe that. I could believe there's a predator that evolved to look like a prey so it can hide better. Because we see that in prey all the time with like butterflies that look like owls and vipers.
Yeah. No, I agree with you there.
Yeah, but it looking like a person, or not looking, but like standing like a person and having claws. I mean, that's weird.
Yeah, I feel like that's weird too. That was kind of my same like idea behind it. I think that's why I found them so interesting, because like, I mean, if they are like real, obviously people are gonna way overboard in like the hyperbolic kind of way of explaining it to make their situation seem even more terrifying, when in actuality it could just be an animal that we are unfamiliar with. But at the same time, I feel like if that were the case, we would have heard about it already. Like, I'm sorry, the amount of people in this fucking country and we haven't seen these motherfuckers or anybody's ever talked about them or learned about them.
But when I said the monkey man weren't real, you were like, they're definitely real.
I know, I feel like, but that's different because I feel like that is definitely real because like, even the locals agreed that it was real.
There are locals in West Virginia that I'm sure will be like, yeah, not deer's a real thing.
Okay, yes, but what I'm saying is like I have a hard time believing that we don't know these exist. But at the same time, if in the next couple of years somebody's like, hey, we've been tracking this new animal that has evolved into this like really crazy fucking thing, I would be like, okay, cool, that's amazing, I'm glad something came of it. But I think again, that's why they're called cryptids, because they don't have any like real proof. Harmon, what do you think?
I think it's a very interesting cryptid, but I think it is more of what you said about it being like a folklore creature.
Yeah.
That is kind of like someone started with an idea that was spooky and people added on to it.
It's the equivalent of like why you tell your kid like the scary story you tell your kids so they don't sneak out of the house at night, especially if you live in the Appalachia Mountains.
Imagine being a kid. You live in
what do you say, Jake?
Imagine being a kid and you live in like a secluded house in the woods, and your mom's like, your mom could have any manner of things to scare you with, and she's like, remember, little Jimmy, if we go outside, not deer will get you. And the kid's like, well, why is it not a deer, Mom? Because it stands on two legs and it's
a bear, dipshit.
I really want this cryptid to be real, damn it. I really do, because I think this shit is so cool. But like part of me is like, this is another cryptid that's been like misidentified, or this is like just a scary story that people tell around campfires.
It has like the setup of an urban legend.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
No concrete stories. It's like, oh, my uncle saw it this one time, or
yes, that's it.
No
that's
one's like coming forward and being like, in 1969.
Yes, exactly. Like there's literally like no historical, like, you know, all the other cryptids that we've covered on, there have been dates, there have been like police reports, there's been evidence to some degree, there's been, you know, all these firsthand accounts that get reported in newspapers for like years. That this not deer is kind of like this not newer cryptid story, but like there's no actual historical things in it. There's no dates. I mean, unless you're looking at like Native American culture, but you know, that stuff was only commented on in reference to skinwalkers and Wendigo. It wasn't commented on for like specifically the not deer. So I find the urban legend comment actually very fitting for this specifically.
Yeah, it's a good story, and not being true doesn't steal its value. I just can't in good conscience say I think it's real. So if there are not deer, I'm pretty sure it's not its own separate thing. It's just people seeing other creatures, or sadly a lot of people who just don't spend a lot of time in the woods and aren't familiar with what deer are like might see it and think they're acting unnatural when that's perfectly within their wheelhouse.
Yeah, no, I agree
mean?
with that too. That's why I've only tried to like give credence to the ones that said that they have seen deer with chronic wasting disease, or they've seen deer like in their day to day, and they find these ones to be weird. But I do believe a majority of it is probably people who do not see deer on the regular, and then they see some that act a little funny, and it could be a number of different reasons as to why they're acting funny. But they go with like the folktale cryptid of, oh shit, it's not deer. But again, like, do you realize how badly I want this
like
thing to be like a legitimate thing? Like, I think it's fucking cool as hell.
It's scary. It is spooky. It's just where I live, there's like deer out the ass. So there's deer everywhere. And the whole idea that like it's unnatural for deer to like look at you and not run away. I'll be out walking at night and see entire like packs of deer, and they'll just stare at me like I owe them fucking money.
You're just seeing conclaves of not deer.
But I called them not deer and they didn't attack me. I told them to eat my ass and nothing happened.
Aww.
Unless you're buying their time.
You guys suck.
They're waiting for the right moment.
But like, you see why I got so interested in this though. Like I saw like a few things on it and I was like, okay, whatever. I won't give it like any like real credit because like, you know, internet's a funny thing. But then like the more I saw and then how they related it to the deer man or the Wendigo or the skinwalkers, like I was like, huh, you know, that's actually kind of interesting. But I do say urban legend. I'm gonna have to say urban legend. Yeah. Unfortunately, which makes me really sad because I did really like this cryptid. It was really fun to research.
Hey, it not being real doesn't take away from that. So
yeah, but
what
like,
I'm saying is not deer fans, don't get angry at us, please.
Literally. And also like
not deer has fucking fans.
It does have fans, okay? Oh. But like, can we take a moment here and how we're saying like it's okay if it's not real, as if like all the other cryptids that we've reported on thus far are like, oh, absolutely 100% truth.
Yeah, they're all bears.
Hey, we got a triple yes for the Kentucky Goblins. So I don't want to hear that shit.
We did.
As far as I'm concerned, the Kentucky Goblins are 100% true, as real as rain.
Okay, I will agree with you there, honestly, because that was some really like good shit that you pulled out for that one.
Pulled out my ass.
He made the whole thing up.
So can we all agree that
Kentucky Goblin?
Can we all agree that not deer is an urban legend?
Yes.
Yeah, sadly.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Well, this has been a fun reconvention.
Wait, does it have any media influence?
I looked. I really don't see anything like anything important to note, honestly, which is like even more disappointing because like I would have bought something for like not deer. Honestly, wait, I'm lying. I saw a mug that said something about not deer on it.
You gotta buy it.
I really want it. Oh, sorry. You might have heard Kiwi cry. Come here,
That's
Kiwi.
fine. Everybody loves cats. Kiwi's a cat, everybody, just so y'all know.
A little baby kitten, Kiwi. Oh, she wants to eat my microphone. Thank you, Kiwi.
She's hungry. I can hear her.
Can you really?
You can hear her chewing, yeah.
This is now a cat-themed ASMR channel.
Yeah, we're changing this is the last episode where we do cryptids. It's cat ASMR.
I have 3 cats that I will happily put next to a microphone.
Every once in a while, we'll bring in Harmon's dog to spice it up a little bit.
Yeah. But
he can attack my microphone.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes, your fancy microphone that you just got.
Yeah, we'll buy a new one with all of them.
Oh, Kiwi, please. Why are you
the one you just bought months ago?
Oh, months ago. Excuse me.
Sadly, I'm going to go. It's probably not real.
I'm going to say urban legend. And I'm also going to end this with like me saying that I have missed doing the Cryptid Code. So I'm happy we are able to come together and do this today.
Me too.
Yeah, and our 5 fans probably missed us.
Yeah. There's probably one of them that just like checks YouTube every day and he's like, oh.
But like they still haven't uploaded a video.
It's been like 3 months. What the fuck?
He's going to see the upload today and be like, finally, a new reason to live.
Love it. All right, Harmon, sign us out.
All right. If you enjoyed our cryptid theme shenanigans, feel free to subscribe so you get new updates. Also, follow us at the Cryptid Code on Twitter. You'll get photos from our investigations, updates, and just our silly little thoughts every once in a while. But for now, though, we're going to have to say au revoir and stay spooky out there.